All right.
All right.
All right, then. All right. So, who am I here with?
My name's Chlo Kramer.
Chlo Kramer. And what are you, Chlo Kramer?
I'm a lot of things. I'm a singer-songwriter. I'm a teacher, voice teacher. I am an actor. I have a degree in musical theater.
Well, aren't we all?
Right. I'm a poet. I'm a doodler.
What are you not?
An asshole. I try to not be an asshole. I try to not be selfish or a liar. I try to not be somebody who needs the spotlight, even though, it feels good.
Oh, that's counterintuitive
It
for
is.
an artist.
Well, it's so counterintuitive, but when you are so hungry to be on the stage that you don't leave the stage, you don't get asked back on. If I'm like, I am dying to be the center of attention, and then I get it, and I'm like, thank you, thank you, thank you, I'm the center of attention. I will never be the center of attention again. If I allow my friends to take the forefront before I offer myself up to it, I have a better time because I'm celebrating other people more than myself. But also the people around me recognize that I'm able to give space to other people.
Wow.
Boosting your friends is more important than boosting yourself when you're a musician.
Wow.
In the music industry, really, and in Asheville, I've really noticed that. People appreciate artists who recommend other people.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't do that, but I have a friend who can do that. Do you play bass? No, I don't play bass. I have a great stand-up bass friend, though. I know him well. We're Facebook friends. I could reach out to him now.
So this is a question I think about a lot, whether the path forward is competitive through competition or cooperative.
Oh, absolutely. It's not even cooperative. It's collaboration.
100%.
Collaboration. I think that here's my ultimate life philosophy, right? People ask, what's the meaning of life all the time? I know what the meaning of life is.
What is it?
Learning from each other, growing from with each other, singing together. I am not in competition with anybody. I saw this meme the other day that was like, you can't compete with me because I want you to win too. And it's true. I want everybody to win. I don't want anybody to be put off from picking up a guitar or a microphone because they think that they'll never be as good as me or anybody else. No, I want you to learn because you want to be good. I want you to try.
I think that's why art is such a unique space, in that at times there are comparisons of skillfulness, but when it comes to expression, you can't stagger expression one over the other.
No.
You can maybe say Pavarotti hits notes with more accuracy than Bob Dylan is, but whether you like their expression more or less, it's all personal. And I think that's why art is such a cool place where all people belong at all times.
And that's the thing, is that art doesn't belong to any of us. Art is something that we have to share. It's not art if it's not heard, by even if it's just you. Even if I'm singing to myself in the shower and I'm the only one who hears it, observation is what makes art. Allowing people into the space you've created. If I'm shutting myself off from the world because y'all just don't get it, that's such a different experience than saying, freely take what I'm offering you, freely, use this information that I have. Not only the knowledge that I've gained over, years of study. I've studied it, voice, music, art, theater. I've studied a lot about it. It's one of my special interests. Yeah. But it's sharing the knowledge, sharing the specialness of it invites other people into your space.
I want to go back to what you said before I forget.
Yeah.
Art isn't art without observation.
Yeah. I've never really put that into words before.
So I really like that. Allie and I were talking about this the other day, in that when you create something, it begs to be shared.
Yeah.
And because I had this thought a lot about being, I solo produce music in a room alone.
Yep.
At times. And I always have more fun when I'm doing it with other people. And that's just kind of a workflow, personal preference thing.
Yeah, I'm similar.
But at the same time, as soon as I've created something beautiful, my first instinct is I want to show this to someone. Yeah. I want to share it with someone. So
it's not even just my friends.
What did you mean when you said that?
I mean
art
that
isn't art without observation.
If a tree falls in the woods, does it make a sound? If I write a song, if I'm the only one who ever hears it, did I write a song?
Yeah.
It's a bit of self-doubt in that, I think, that there's like, I don't want to be alone in my experience. I don't want to be alone in my observation of myself. I want other people to validate me by observing me. That's definitely a thing I've had my whole life. And part of that is theatrical background. I've been in plays since I was 3.
Yeah. So our identity, how do you feel about this? The identity is socially created as well as personally decided upon.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, we can't personally decide upon anything unless socially it's been told that it's an option.
Nothing exists in a vacuum.
Right.
Without being in relation to something else.
Right. Perception defines everything. So my experience defines my perception. If I'm experiencing only myself, I have no idea about anything. Yeah. It's the same with art. If I'm only perceiving my own art because I have some idea that for the purity of my art, I must only be with myself, which people do. And I'm not, gonna poop all over that, because there is something to that where like, this is pure me. This is just me. And I did that. I isolated for a while in my songwriting.
The audience would be yourself then.
But exactly. Like who relates to me? Me. I relate to me. Who fully 100% knows where I'm coming from? Me. If I do not allow perception to shift with other people's life experience, hearing my words, then I have nothing to go forward with. Like people in the past have come up and said, oh, your song, it reminded me of this situation. And I'm like, babes, it has nothing to do with your situation, but that is so cool that something completely unrelated to you. Because, like a song I wrote about my childhood or an ex-boyfriend or something very specific, can relate even wider. Because the way we take metaphor changes our lives.
So this is an interesting thing I think about a lot too. So we live kind of on the tail end of postmodernism, peeking its head in through everything. The central idea being that no works, whatever they may be, spoken, song, whatever, none of them have intrinsic meaning. But meaning is self-created by the person engaging with the art.
And the context that they have.
Yes. So would you say, typically, you believe that, and this is just curiosity, do you believe that art does have intrinsic meaning? Like if I write a poem and I mean something very specific when I say it, do you think that poem holds its meaning, or the meaning is co-created by the person engaging with the art and the author?
I think the author and the observer become the artist. I think that's a really good question, and I think that the author and the observer at a point are indistinguishable from one another in perception, because an English teacher telling you that Shakespeare meant blah 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 in this line of Hamlet, and Shakespeare writing the lines of Hamlet, add a degree of perception, you don't know who's who anymore. When you're a high school sophomore, at a point you don't know whether the English teacher interpreted it that way, or if somebody 100 years ago did, or if Shakespeare 500 years ago wrote it that way. So when time is into play with our art.
Yeah. Do you think things have intrinsic meaning? Then does the meaning of Shakespeare's plays, say Macbeth, does the meaning of Macbeth change throughout time based on the observers engaging with it, or does it have an original intent of the author that is intrinsic, or does the interpreter create the meaning of the art?
I think that the plot of Macbeth is static. I think that the words of Macbeth are static. I think that the meaning of Macbeth...
Yeah.
Oh my God. I've seen multiple versions of Macbeth. The newer one with Marion Cotillard, it's a different play.
Yeah.
It's a different play, and it's not. It's exactly the same words.
Sure.
They are not the same people.
The experience of it, though, would be different.
And acting is like that. It's never the same person. Even night to night in a production, you're not playing the same person. And if you are, you're playing that person with a little different lived experience, a little different context. The moment before in art is more important than the moment we're seeing. And that was taught to me in college.
Say that again?
The moment before is more important than the moment you see.
What does that mean?
So in acting, when you're in an acting school or a theater department, a huge part of what you have to consider is the context that your character is operating under. So the moment before is what happens right before you enter the stage.
Oh,
so
I see.
If I'm playing, I was in a play years ago called Dearly Departed. Marguerite enters and she's already pissed off. I had to know why. Why? What happened in the other room? Who was I just yelling at that I came in here to calm down about? You know, those are things that actors get to decide themselves.
To me, that does sound like an emphasis on the author's intent, at least from the performer's perspective.
Well, the performer has to decode. You know, acting is more about psychological work than physical. It's interesting because music is often viewed as the opposite of that, where it's like, you know, I practice the riff, I practice the breath support, which that's, you know, a myth that we can get into at some other point. Like the diaphragm stuff is like, whoo, man, my students are always blown away when I'm like, that's an involuntary muscle you can't support from your diaphragm, like willingly. And they're like, oh my God, are you for real? Like,
we'll have to have that argument.
It's a totally other time.
We'll talk about that another time.
But like the context that we create as a performer is the context that the audience gets. So perception.
Is it though?
Well, actually, that's a good question because they could be entering with different.
What they
especially not what they walk away with at the end. Moment to moment, you know, especially in an intimate setting. Like if this was a performance, which it's not, but if it was, and it could become a performance, but I'm not performing. Yeah. But if I was to, you know, adopt a character and you're my audience, I get a direct moment to moment understanding of what you're experiencing from me. In a room with 150 seats, I cannot possibly get a moment-to-moment understanding of what every audience member feels. You're right. So they could walk away with a totally different perception of an entirely different story.
So this aligns with kind of my thought experiments with duality, in that if you were to ask me the same question, I think the answer is meaning is co-created by author and experiencer.
Right.
And so at any given time, there was an original purpose. But you can't erase the fact that people are bringing their own contextual experiences to the text, the song, the play,
my curiosity with that then is at what, because I agree. I think that it becomes collaborative.
Yeah.
Audience, but here's my question. Audience, after a while, inherently must become more informative to how the text is produced or interpreted than the original author is because they're dead. Shakespeare, for example, can no longer say, hey, you're wrong. I didn't mean that. The audience now has complete free control, especially because it's public domain. His works are in the public domain. You can do whatever you want with them, really.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
When does it become that the author I think, isn't the primary author, you know?
I think it depends on how much contextual work you have about the author and their work.
Shakespeare is a tricky one because there's so
we're not
much
sure.
context.
Yeah. And we're not sure about authorship on some of the stuff we ascribe to Shakespeare.
Right.
And so it gets really murky.
Who is he?
Was it Shakespeare or not?
What's that movie?
Was
Anonymous?
it Marie Antoinette or was it someone else? Not
Marie
Antoinette.
Is that a theory? That's not true.
His wife, the one with a famous actor has her name now.
I can't remember her name.
Oh my God.
Mary.
I can see her
Mary?
face. It's something like that. Yeah.
I don't remember. There are a lot of rumors about a lot of different things. And that's the thing is that, like, as humans, I feel like we are so quick to refuse authorship. Do you know what I mean? Like, to accuse somebody of plagiarizing or taking putting their name down when they shouldn't have, you know, like I feel like I don't know if it's innate human jealousy that we have for creation. I know that there is an innate jealousy of creation in humanity.
But I think it's because they're not creating.
That these people are not creating.
I think everyone is an artist. They just don't know it.
Well, and that's why I think that the meaning of life is to learn from each other. The meaning of life is to sing together, to dance under the moonlight together with reckless abandon.
To perpetually create.
That's what life is. That's what we live. that's what life is. You know, the earth is perpetually creating. Those trees outside your window are turning red because they are creating a new chemical so that they are prepared to fall. So they are prepared to nourish the earth, which in turn creates frost, which creates all of these changes. The grass regrows and the spring happens. Everything returns. I mean, really, that's what that song is about. It's about karma. It's about natural biological karma. It's real. Everything returns to itself. The energy you give out must be returned to you. There's no way to separate creation and perception when it comes to art. There's not a difference. To perceive is to create. Because when I perceive a song that I love, I have to sing along. And that in turn is me creating. I am duetting. If I am creating something wonderful, I cannot help but perceive it.
I think
because to perceive it is to keep going.
I think good art does that. Is it elicits something
what's good
in
art?
heart. And here we come to my point. Here we come to my point. So the question that I sat down to ask you, Chlo Kramer, is what makes good art? Now, this question is really interesting to me because it can be interpreted by the audience two different ways. Is like what makes art good, a taste thing, or what makes good art? Under what conditions is good art made? So answer however you like.
I mean, the thing that's really coming to my head is honesty. Like, I don't think that good is as descriptive as truthful. And I think that truthful art is what is perceived by audiences to be heartfelt, real, relatable, those kind of big buzzer words that people like on social media. Like the art that is perceived the most is art that is relatable. Like art about longing, art about loss, art about love and desire, art about grief and loneliness. Like these are the things that we pull towards us and we say more of that. I don't feel alone in this.
Relatable then would mean elicits expression,
but not maybe purposefully.
It elicits human emotion.
It's the honesty of telling your own truth. If I'm telling my own truth through my art, somebody will hear my truth and go, that's real.
That's what I mean. Is it elicits something in your audience? There is some kind of response. That's what honesty does. Is it requires some kind of response. You relate to it. You feel a connection of sorts.
It's not though like it's not truth for the sake of making money. Like it's not like you can really read through that. You know, when you have an artist who for instance, you might want to cut this out because I'm about to talk some smack. I don't like Taylor Swift. I don't like Taylor Swift because it feels money hungry. It feels, I'm going to use the vaguest words possible to break down this very simple concept that I have into 400 different songs.
So let me play devil's advocate. Because most days, this is one of my more unpopular opinions, is that I share a similar sentiment. So
I've gotten canceled in friend groups for not liking her.
Let's play devil's advocate for a second about Miss T. Swift. So what do you say to the charge that this music obviously is doing something groundbreaking in the world? She's set to make $4 billion off of this
People relate to her a lot.
There was seismic activity at a T. Swift concert.
That's crazy.
It was registered seismic activity. Groundbreaking. Because there were so many people at a T. Swift concert.
That was so funny.
She has generated,
my God,
like the GDP of a small country at this point, just with this single Eras tour and all the addendum art
and the
pieces that have
social
come out of
media
it.
presence that she has is impressive as well.
What do you say about like that there's obviously something there if so many people are responding to it?
Right.
How could you call it bad art?
But I didn't.
Oh, you didn't.
I don't like her.
Oh, I see.
I don't think she's a bad artist.
Okay.
I think that she has found a niche. I do think that she's a dishonest artist.
Ooh.
I think that she's dishonest.
I think
that it's very profitable. Ooh. It's been profitable.
You think it's kind of conniving?
Since the Red album. I feel corporate energy from her. It doesn't feel honest. It feels controlled. All of her appearances at football games, etc., etc. It's she's a product.
You know what would happen though?
She's not an artist anymore.
If there was honesty introduced into that mix,
she'd go even more viral, probably.
I don't know.
Really?
Well, this is what I mean, is the incentive to be dishonest is to acquire as much favor as possible and attention as possible. And I say that as soon as you introduce honesty, you're going to receive pushback. You know,
she honestly, like the younger fans of any pop artist right now are so easily swayed that because of the way social media and TikTok and all the reels work and everything, like the attention spans are not there.
You're right.
Even mine.
But like her audience is not just young people.
No, you know, and that's the thing. But I think that about half of her audience is under 25-ish.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So if she was to completely switch and go into, because here's the thing is that Taylor Swift could have been Stevie Nicks. She didn't do that. She chose to go bland pop. It's samey. It's very little variety and interest. Her vocal lines don't interest me. 1989 was a great album. I will not front.
Yeah.
I love that album. I stole that album from my sister. She got a CD. I stole it from her.
I'm going to join you here in a little bit of criticism. The worst NPR Tiny Desk concert I've ever seen was Taylor Swift.
I didn't even watch hers.
Guitar.
I did not watch it.
I mean, those songs do not hold up acoustic.
Without
the first album, Teardrops from My Guitar.
The blue album.
Sit around a campfire. So this is, you might like this. This is a really great metaphor I heard for songwriting in particular. I believe it was the lead singer of Mumford & Sons.
Michael Mumford.
Yeah.
Huge Mumford &
Mr.
Sons fan. Did you know they were directly inspired by oh crap, now it's just slipped my brain. I found out recently.
You didn't even know.
No, I just found out it'll come back to me in a minute.
So they do a songwriting test when they've written something in the studio, and they call it the campfire test, where if they can't just sit around a campfire and play it on acoustic and it still be a good song, like if it doesn't sound good outside of the studio, without your pals and your producers, if it doesn't pass the campfire test,
it doesn't make it on the album.
They don't send it out.
And I love that. Yeah. I love that because
I've always had that in my head.
It makes sense to me to work like that.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing is that if you're doing a super like poppy track in a studio and like the idea is stadium, the idea is Taylor Swift, the idea is Beyonce. Okay, great, I get it. If you can't have TikTok girlies covering your song with their guitar, it's a different class of music. It's not less. It's different. There are songs like I'm trying to think of a really good example from like back in the day, like Closer by the Chainsmokers. Great song.
Love that
song.
Oh
my God. That song went everywhere. Song. Summer 2016, and I popped off to that song every day of my life.
Yeah.
Love that song. It is not a song that lends itself well to being taken away from production.
Sure.
Mumford & Sons, on the other hand, Little Lion Man with production is great. You can up it, you can down it, but you can take it and strip it.
That's true.
Completely, and it's the same song. It's not a different song.
I see what you're saying. I do think there's a distinction in the Chainsmokers because they are essentially producer DJs.
Right.
And so I think that style of music, it is 100% production.
They're not branded as songwriters.
There's nothing outside of them in their computer. You know, it is all digitally created. And so I think that stands in its own kind of category.
You're right.
Because I have come to love electronic music.
I'm getting more and more into it.
And they are so creative.
I have some friends who are real bass heads. And
They're so creative in what they do.
They are. It's real cool.
I mean, they chip and carve away at sound itself. Yeah. Like the things Skrillex has done with production, it is remarkable.
Yeah,
it's remarkable. And then 100 underground DJs you've never heard of.
Right.
That, I mean, are just pushing the boundaries of what you can do with the computer.
Yeah.
In any case,
I think it's a little bit different. My friends have shown me this new guy, Skin Shape. I don't know if you know him. You'd love him, though. Skin Shape.
So
super
I don't
cool.
think we should hold Chainsmokers to the campfire test.
You're right.
Because they're not singer-songwriters.
Yeah. Well,
whereas
in that
Taylor
case,
Swift 100% a singer-songwriter.
So the song, like, Are We Out of the Woods Yet? Are We Out of the Woods? It's a great song, but I've tried to cover it. I've tried to cover a lot of her songs. It is very difficult to make them work with just a guitar and my voice. And I don't want to toot my own horn too much with it, but like I am skilled at covering songs that are not used to being covered.
Formulaic, repetitive,
right?
Robotic.
It is though. It's like it's hard.
Singing it.
Oh my God, I get bored before the chorus.
I didn't want to go this direction, but you.
I get bored singing her songs before I hit the chorus.
Pulled me into the darkness.
I know. I'm sorry.
Soon I'll be talking about cyclists and how much I hate them.
Don't get me started because then I'll go into tourists. Go
I'm
home! Yesterday I got so mad. Go home! At a stoplight. There were 2 Florida license plates that were crashing into people, and I was like, "Go home! Just get out of here!"
You know what? The animosity between Asheville locals and Floridians is
Well, I moved here from Florida in
You were one of them, and you closed the door behind you.
No, because I transferred up to school here. I transferred from Florida State to Mars Hill, so I
grandfathered in.
Yeah,
okay,
I only had a Florida license plate for
at least
like 6 months.
At least you're contributing to the culture, and you don't just have a summer house here.
Oh my god!
You know, that's a little better.
The worst is the fall houses.
I realized it's the same hatred. I'm from Texas. That Texans feel towards Californians.
Okay, interesting.
They're the ones who
say Arkansas.
They're the ones who come and ruin Texas. That's how it feels. I don't feel that way.
There are a lot of Californians here too.
Yeah, I believe you. It's a beautiful climate here.
It is. There's a lot of people from a lot of places.
The extreme climate.
Wow.
They're adapting in Texas for sure.
Overall, though, I mean, I think that honesty really is what makes good art, and it's hard to say good. There's no bad art. I really don't think there is bad art. I think that there's dishonest art. I think that there's art for profit.
Is dishonest art bad? Is art for profit bad?
No. People have to eat.
So it's not bad art.
I don't think it's bad. I don't think art is. I don't think there's a way for art to be inherently bad.
Or good, then.
Or good. Right. It's perception.
Yeah.
We make it what it is.
So that's your answer.
Yeah, I think it is. We make art what it is. Our perception of art defines what the art is and what the art stands for. An artist can tell us. Right. Yeah, well, an artist can tell us what it means. That doesn't mean that 4 billion people streaming it on YouTube are going to go home and say, the artist said it means this, so that's exactly what it means. You know they're not going to do that. Yeah. The girlies are going to go home and they're going to psychoanalyze Taylor Swift. And they're going to say, Taylor Swift said it was about this, but actually, guys, I think it's about 4 ex-boyfriends ago. They will do what they're going to do. We all will do what we're going to do, which is to overthink and to overanalyze and to listen and listen and listen, especially if it connects with us.
So it can't be good or bad. It can simply be.
Period. It can be. Art is.
Art is.
Art always has been.
And art does.
And art does.
And art will be.
Sure will.
Well, thank you, Chlo Kramer.
You're welcome, Reverend Gray.
An enlivening conversation. We are at the moment in the middle of a production of a song for Chlo. It's going to be amazing. It's called
Everything Returns.
And Everything Returns. Stay on the lookout. Until then, stay gray.
Stay gray. Love it.